4-year-old granddaughter whispered. I set down my knitting and felt the world tilt. I left the house with no clear destination, only a plan no one expected. What my family didn't know was that I held the key to a hidden 17 million fortune. What happened next stunned everyone. I was sitting in my favorite blue armchair, sunlight spilling through lace curtains, watching little Harlow line up her dolls. She climbed into my lap, her warm breath close to my ear. "Mommy and Daddy are talking about moving you today," she said, matter of fact as only a child can. The words hit like a physical blow. My son Kurt had been distant since his father passed, but I never imagined he'd see me as a problem to remove. Memories of him as a boy, running to me with scraped knees, begging for bedtime stories, flashed through my mind. I forced a smile for Harlow. "I'm fine, sweetheart," I said, though my heart ached. After she left with her parents, the silence of my house felt heavy. I opened the jewelry box Harold built for me, found the tiny key hidden beneath the velvet, and touched the envelope only I knew about. They thought I had nothing. They were wrong. I packed a small suitcase, clothes, medicine, Harold's wedding ring, and stepped into the crisp afternoon air. Neighbors waved, unaware this might be the last time they saw me on that familiar street. Follow my journey to see how one quiet grandmother turned an unexpected betrayal into the shock of a lifetime. Comment with the city you're watching from. I'd love to know how far this story travels. The version of Clarice my son thought he knew? She ended at the bus stop. I boarded the city bus without a backward glance. "Where to, hun?" the driver asked, a kind woman about my age. "Downtown," I said. "First National Bank." As the bus rumbled through streets I'd walked for decades, the corner grocery, the church where Harold and I married, an unexpected feeling stirred. Not fear, freedom. Kurt and Avalon believed they could quietly pack me away. They had no idea what they'd just set in motion. 30 minutes later, I stepped into the marble lobby of First National. Instead of my usual tiny deposit, I looked the young teller straight in the eye. "I need access to my safety deposit boxes. All of them." The bank manager himself appeared, Mr. Davidson, his polite smile tightening the instant he saw my account details. "Mrs. Henderson, we haven't seen you in some time," he said as the vault door slid open. Inside those metal drawers lay the truth I'd hidden for 5 years. My mind flashed back to the day Harold's doctor said the words, "Stage 4. Harold had squeezed my hand and whispered a promise. "Don't tell Kurt about the patents. Not yet. Let him build his own life first." Harold had always been a quiet inventor, tinkering in our garage. Better hinges, smarter sprinklers, until one idea changed everything. An automatic pet feeder. That single gadget opened the door to a stream of patents and steady royalties. We invested quietly. Blue chip stocks, unremarkable rentals, solid municipal bonds. No flash, no clue for anyone to notice. When Kurt graduated and fell for Avalon, Harold insisted we keep living modestly. "If he knows we're wealthy," he'd said, "he'll never learn what he's truly capable of." And that woman, she'll never love him for him. Harold was right. Avalon's charm had always felt calculated. Now, seated in the bank's private room, I opened a folder thick with statements. The total still stunned me. $17,200,000. Harold's little invention had grown into a quiet empire. Timed dispensers for medicine, self-watering planters, programmable bird feeders. Each patent kept the fortune climbing. My phone buzzed. "Mom, we need to talk. Are you home?" Kurt's text. I almost laughed. In his mind, I was still sitting meekly in that blue armchair, waiting for his decision. He had no idea I was already 3 steps ahead, thanks to a secret Harold and I guarded for decades, and to one loyal little girl who warned me in time. I'd called Kurt maybe once a week. Even that felt like too much for him. Every conversation carried a hint of impatience. Avalon had been sliding a wedge between us for years, and my son was too blind, or too comfortable to notice. My phone buzzed again. Avalon this time. "Clarice, Kurt is worried about you. Please call us back." Worried? Hardly. They were worried their carefully planned schedule might unravel. I reached for another document from the vault. Harold's real will. Not the trimmed version I'd shown Kurt after the funeral. The one that listed only the house and a modest bank account. This was the full truth. Every patent, every investment, every hidden asset. Harold had left everything to me with a single condition. The inheritance would pass to Kurt and Harlow only when I believed Kurt had the character to handle it. 5 years later, that moment hadn't come. Instead, I'd watched my son drift further under Avalon's spell, treating family as a burden. The phone on the conference table rang softly. "Mrs. Henderson," Mr. Davidson said through the intercom, "there's a young man here asking for you. Says he's your son." My heart sank, but my voice stayed calm. "Tell him I'm in a meeting and can't be disturbed." I slipped Harold's small leather notebook into my purse, a ledger of every patent filing, every royalty check, every careful investment. On the last page, Harold's familiar handwriting waited for me. "Clarice, you'll know when it's time to tell the truth. Trust your instincts. Our grandson deserves better. Kurt deserves the chance to grow, but some lessons can only be learned the hard way." Through the glass, I saw Kurt in the lobby, frustration written across his face. For a moment, I wanted to run to him, to reveal the fortune built from Harold's genius. But Harold's words echoed in my mind. Some lessons must be learned the hard way. When I finally stepped out, Kurt was gone. Mr. Davidson gave a polite nod. "Your son left a few minutes ago. Anything else we can help you with today?" "Yes," I said evenly. "I need to open several new accounts and speak with someone about estate planning today." The Grandview Hotel wasn't luxurious, but it was quiet and 3 miles from Kurt's house. From my corner room, I could see the neighborhood where I'd raised him. The little Harlow was surely wondering why Grandma had disappeared. 2 days passed. Kurt's messages grew more frantic. "Mom, where are you? We need to talk. Avalon is really worried." I almost laughed. Avalon worried about me the way a cat worries about a mouse, only when it might slip away. Yesterday I'd met with Margaret Chen, a private investigator recommended by Mr. Davidson. Small, sharp-eyed, and easily underestimated, perfect for the job. "I need everything," I told her. Avalon's spending habits, daily routines, friendships, finances. Dig until you hit bedrock. Now I waited in my hotel room, the local news murmuring about elder neglect, a topic that tightened my chest. Was that what they thought I was? A vulnerable, old woman? My phone rang. Margaret's number lit the screen. "Mrs. Henderson," she said, "I have some early findings you'll want to hear." "What did you find?" "Your son and daughter-in-law are buried in debt, maxed out credit cards, a second mortgage, and payments on 2 luxury cars they can't afford. But that's not the most alarming part. Your daughter-in-law has been researching care facilities for half a year," Margaret said. "Not the good ones, the cheapest. Some have serious state citations." The room tilted. 6 months. This wasn't concern, it was strategy. "There's more," she continued. "She's been telling neighbors you're getting confused and hard to manage, setting a story that makes their choice look reasonable." I thought of Mrs. Patterson's odd smile last week, the way she spoke slowly and loudly, as if I were a child. "What about my granddaughter?" "That's the worst part," Margaret said softly. "From what I've seen, she's often left to herself while your daughter-in-law shops, and your son works long hours to keep up." My heart tightened. Poor Harlow, living in a house where money outweighed people. I stared at the beige hotel wall. Harold had been right to keep our wealth quiet, but he'd given Kurt too much credit. My son had grown into someone willing to shuffle his mother away for convenience. I opened Harold's notebook, tracing the careful lines of his handwriting. The automatic feeder patent alone should look after 3 generations, but money without wisdom becomes a burden. Wisdom, what Kurt lacked, and what Avalon had never shown. A text from an unknown number lit my phone. "Grandma, are you okay? Mommy says you're sick and had to see the doctor. I miss you. Love, Harlow." They were lying to my granddaughter, making her worry while they shopped for my future. I called Margaret back. "Document everything, finances, how they treat Harlow, every story they're spreading. Are you planning legal action?" "I'm planning to protect my granddaughter, whatever that requires." That evening I drove through my old neighborhood. Our house of 30 years sat dark. 2 streets over, Kurt's place glowed. Through the front window, Avalon paced with her phone, gesturing sharply. Kurt slumped on the couch, head in hands. No Harlow in sight. My phone rang. "Kurt." "Mom, please pick up. We can work this out. Avalon found some really nice places where you'll be comfortable and safe." "Safe from my own life?" I watched him hang up and toss the phone aside. An upstairs light clicked on. Harlow's room. A small silhouette moved about, getting ready for bed. I ached to knock on the door and tell her I was fine, and that someone was watching out for her. Avalon reappeared with a laptop, set it on the coffee table, and angled the screen toward Kurt. Even from across the street, I recognized the pages. Facility directories. They were browsing my future like a household appliance. Kurt pointed, shaking his head. Avalon pointed to another listing, more insistent. They weren't debating care. They were debating price. I drove away before anger made my choices for me. Back at the hotel, I called Margaret again. Move faster and find out what it would take to secure custody of Harlow, or at least visitation they can't cancel. That's a big step. Are you certain? I pictured Harlow's brave little warning, her worried text, that square of light in her window. I've never been more certain. Morning brought Margaret's full report, 20 pages of records, photos, and transcripts painting a family in free fall. Over $200,000 in debt. The house I'd quietly helped them buy, $50,000 for the down payment, was leveraged to the limit. Avalon's spending had gone wild. Kurt was working 70-hour weeks to keep them afloat. They'd figured out my modest house was worth nearly $400,000 in today's market. They weren't just trying to remove a burden. They were getting ready to sell my home to patch their money troubles. Hook check-in. Where are you watching from? Drop your city. I want to see how far this story travels. The last page of Margaret's report broke my heart. Up at 6:30. Makes her own breakfast while the parents sleep. Walks to school alone. Spends afternoons at the neighbors because no one's home. My granddaughter was essentially raising herself. I picked up the phone. Richard, it's Clarice Henderson. I need to see you today. It's urgent. What's this about? I need to protect my granddaughter. And it's time my family learns who they've been planning to push aside. Richard Petton, Harold's lawyer for over 20 years, greeted me in his mahogany paneled office, steady as ever, curiosity in his eyes. I set Margaret's folder and Harold's notebook on his desk. There's something I've kept quiet for 5 years, I said, opening to the final tally. 17,200,000. His composure flickered. Clarice, he said carefully. I handled Harold's estate. The will I filed showed exactly what I wanted it to show, I finished. Real, but partial. The patents and investment accounts were in my name by Harold's design. I told him everything. Harold's decision to keep our wealth discreet, my years of living simply while Kurt built his own life, and the discovery that my son and his wife were preparing to move me into a facility to unlock my property. Richard listened, taking neat notes. What do you want to do? First, protect Harlow. What are my options to guarantee I can see her regularly, no matter what her parents decide about me? That's nuanced, he replied. Grandparent access varies by state. If we can show a strong ongoing bond and that cutting contact would harm her well-being, I can prove it, I said. 8 years of birthdays, sleepovers, school events, photos, cards, everything. What else? I want to buy the house next to Kurt and Avalon, the one with the for sale sign. Close enough to watch over Harlow without asking permission. That's well within your rights, he said, noting it down. And I want a trust for Harlow that her parents can't touch. Available when she turns 25. How much? $5 million. His pen stopped. She's the future, Richard. The only one in that household with a clear heart. I want her never to be forced into dependence the way they're trying to force me. He nodded. I'll draft the trust. One more thing. I took a breath. A new will. One they'll never see coming. If anything happens to me before Harlow turns 18, care for her and management of her trust go to my sister Patricia in Oregon. Kurt gets nothing until he proves he's the father and the man his daughter deserves. Clarice, that's a major step, she said gently. You're effectively cutting off your only child. I'm giving him a path, I answered. Harold always said money without wisdom becomes a burden. Kurt needs wisdom first. If he never finds it... I thought of Harlow's brave little face, the stories they'd fed her, the care home listings on their laptop. Then Harlow inherits everything at 30. At least one person in this family will honor what Harold built. For the next hour, Richard drafted while I stared out at the city where I'd lived my whole adult life. It felt surreal to make decisions about millions while my son pictured me as a penniless obligation. My phone buzzed. Kurt, Mom, please come home. We're all worried. Harlow keeps asking where you are. I typed back, I'm fine, taking some time to think. He replied instantly, think about what? If this is about the care home, we can consider other options. We just want what's best for you. Even now, he couldn't say the truth out loud. It wasn't about what was best for me. It was never about my well-being. It was about what made their lives easier. Richard re-entered the conference room with a neat stack of papers. The trust for Harlow, the new will, and a power of attorney that keeps all decisions in your hands, he said. Perfect. I signed each page, every stroke of my pen securing a future Kurt could not imagine. There's one more thing, Richard added. The house next to your son's, owners are relocating. They'll take a cash offer of $420,000, well below the $485,000 asking price. Make the offer, I replied without hesitation. An hour later, I owned 247 Maple Street, right next door to the people plotting to erase me. That evening I walked through my new 2-story colonial, keys warm in my hand. From an upstairs window I could see straight into Harlow's room. Through the quiet walls came raised voices. She's been gone 4 days, Kurt, Avalon snapped. People are starting to ask questions. I know, he said, exhausted. But what am I supposed to tell them? That my mother vanished because she found out about the nursing home? You weren't supposed to let her find out. This is a disaster. Maybe we should drop the whole thing, Kurt said softly. Maybe we'll find another way to fix the finances. Are you out of your mind? Avalon's voice cut like glass. Your mother's house is our only way out. If we don't sell, we lose everything. A pause, then Kurt, quieter still. What if she doesn't come back? Then we file a missing person report and have her declared incompetent. Either way, we get control. I stepped back, heart hammering. They weren't just planning a care facility. They were ready to claim I'd lost my mind. My phone vibrated. Margaret. Mrs. Henderson, your daughter-in-law met with a lawyer who specializes in conservatorships. They're preparing to argue you're mentally unfit. The words chilled me. How do you know? The lawyer's secretary is my cousin. She overheard everything. They're going to start a paper trail, Margaret added. Notes, witnesses, anything to show confusion. I looked out the window toward Harlow's faint silhouette at her desk. My sweet granddaughter, doing homework alone while her parents plotted to erase me. Yes, I'm here, I told Margaret. Schedule a meeting with them for tomorrow morning. Tell them I'm ready to come home and talk. After what I just told you, is that wise? They think they're dealing with a frail woman who doesn't understand. It's time they learn who they've underestimated. Saturday, 2 p.m. I walked up the familiar steps of my son's house, the same worn purse over my arm, the same simple coat Avalon always mocked. To them, I looked like the grandmother who had disappeared 5 days ago. They had no idea that the woman on their porch now owned the house next door and controlled $17 million they would never touch. Kurt opened the door before I could knock, relief and frustration battling on his face. Mom, he breathed, thank God. Where have you been? It's not impossible, I said evenly, meeting their stunned eyes. It's deliberate. Kurt sat frozen, his mouth half open. Avalon's carefully polished smile had vanished, replaced by a hard, calculating stare. I chose a quiet life, I continued, tapping the stack of papers on the coffee table, because Harold and I believed real strength isn't measured by flashy cars or name-brand clothes. It's measured by character. We wanted Kurt to build his own. We wanted Harlow to grow up knowing love matters more than money. Avalon finally found her voice. You've been hiding this? All these years? I protected what Harold built, I said. From greed, from carelessness, from exactly this. Kurt rubbed his temples. Mom, why didn't you tell me? Because you needed to stand on your own. And because I never imagined you'd let someone convince you to betray your own mother for a quick fix. The only sound was the quiet tick of the mantelclock. I slid another folder forward. These are the trust papers for Harlow. $5 million, untouchable until she's 25, and a new will. Until you prove you can be the father she deserves, you inherit nothing. Not a cent. Avalon's face flushed crimson. You can't just... I can, I interrupted, calm and clear. And I already have. The house next door? I own it. I'll be right beside Harlow every day. You cannot stop me from seeing her, and the courts will guarantee that. Kurt's eyes filled with something between shame and realization. Mom, I. This isn't revenge, I said, standing. It's protection. For Harlow, for the legacy her grandfather created. And Kurt, it's a chance for you. Show wisdom, show integrity. Then we can talk. I picked up my purse, slipped Harold's notebook inside, and headed for the door. Harlow's footsteps pattered down the stairs. Grandma, are you leaving? I knelt, hugging her tight, breathing in the familiar strawberry scent of her hair. Never far, sweetheart. I'm right next door. I looked back once. Kurt remained seated, staring at the documents, at the life he never imagined existed, while Avalon stood rigid, speechless. The quiet was louder than any argument. Without another word, I stepped into the cool afternoon air, the keys to 2 houses and $17 million secure in my hand. It was never about what was best for me, I said quietly. It was about what was convenient for you. Kurt's shoulders sagged. Mom, if this is real, why didn't you tell me? Why let us struggle? I did help, I answered, looking him straight in the eye. The $50,000 you thought came from your father's insurance for your down payment, that was me. The inheritance you received from Grandma, me again. I wanted you to grow into the kind of man who could stand on his own, not someone waiting for a handout. Avalon finally spoke, her voice thin. If you're so wealthy, why live like that? Because wealth without wisdom is empty, I said. Your father understood that. Sadly, neither of you do. I gathered the papers. Here's what's happening next. I've bought the house next door. I'm moving in next week. Kurt's voice cracked. You what? I'll be close enough to see Harlow whenever she wants, and there's nothing you can do to stop that. I've also set up a $5 million trust for her future, untouchable by either of you. Avalon's face went pale. $5 million. As for you, I continued, assessing it, you can choose apologize and commit to being better parents, or keep down this path and learn how quickly. $17 million can hire the best attorneys in the state. Kurt rose, hands trembling. Mom, we were desperate. We made a mistake. If you'd known about the money, I said evenly, you'd have been waiting for me to die, just as you were planning to speed that up with your nursing home scheme. Avalon's composure snapped. You can't just buy the house next door and spy on us. We have rights as parents, and I have rights as a grandmother, I replied, calm and cold. And I have the means to protect those rights. Remember that. I climbed the stairs to find Harlow coloring. Grandma, are you leaving again? I sat beside her. Not leaving, sweetheart. I'm moving into the pretty house with the big porch, right next door. Anytime you need me, I'll be there. Her eyes lit up. Really? Really? And if anyone tells you Grandma is sick or confused, remember this conversation. I'm fine, and I'll always be here for you. She nodded solemnly. I'll remember. 6 months later, I rocked gently on my new front porch as Harlow wobbled past on her bike. Look, Grandma, no hands. I smiled. I see you, sweetheart. You're amazing. The door next door opened. Kurt walked across the yard and settled into the chair beside me. These visits had become routine. Awkward at first, now almost normal. Hey, Mom, he said, watching his daughter with quiet pride. How was Harlow today? Perfect as always. She got an A on her science project. We used the garden for her experiment. He nodded, a shadow of regret in his eyes. She seems happier lately. Children thrive when they feel secure and loved, without conditions, I said. The evening light softened around us. My son said nothing, but the silence carried a weight of lessons learned. I glanced at Harlow, free and laughing in the driveway, and felt the steady peace of a life rebuilt on my own terms. Kurt winced at the quiet truth in my words, but stayed silent. Over the past months, we'd had many hard conversations, and he was beginning to see how his marriage and Avalon's ambitions had chipped away at our family. Avalon wants to talk to you, he said at last. I raised an eyebrow. About what? She wants to apologize. Really apologize. And you believe her? He raked a hand through his hair, a gesture that took me back to his childhood. I think she finally understands what we almost lost, what we almost threw away. Through the kitchen window, I caught a glimpse of Avalon. She looked different, thinner, dressed simply. Whether that was a sign of financial strain or something deeper, I couldn't tell. I'm willing to listen, I said carefully. But Kurt, trust isn't rebuilt overnight. What you both planned, It changed things permanently. I know, he exhaled. I don't deserve your forgiveness. But for Harlow's sake, maybe we can find a way forward. Just then, Harlow skidded to the porch, cheeks flushed with excitement. Daddy, did you see me riding with no hands? I did, Princess. You're amazing. She leaned her bike against the railing and bounded up the steps. Grandma, can I show Daddy the photo album we made? Of course, sweetheart. As she dashed inside, Kurt and I sat in a comfortable silence. She's made 3 albums since I moved in, I told him. One about the garden, one about our cooking adventures, and one of all the places we dream of visiting together. You're giving her something she wasn't getting at home, I added gently. Kurt nodded. We've started family activities. Our counselor suggested it. It's been eye-opening. Harlow returned, proudly holding a thick purple scrapbook. This one's about our garden, Daddy. Here's the day we planted seeds, and here's last week when we picked tomatoes. I watched Kurt's face soften as he flipped through the pages. For the first time, he seemed to see his daughter not as a duty, but as a vibrant little person with her own passions. This is wonderful, he said. We're making strawberry jam next week, Harlow added. Grandma says we can give some to the neighbors. That sounds perfect, Kurt replied. When Harlow ran inside to wash up for dinner, Kurt turned to me, eyes serious. Mom, be honest. Do you think I can be a good father, or is it too late? The question surprised me. Kurt, you were a loving child, empathetic, kind. You stood up for kids who were bullied. You cried when our dog died and insisted on a proper funeral. That boy is still in you. The choice is whether you let him lead or let fear and money keep driving you. He hesitated. What about Avalon? Can she change? People can change when they truly want to, I said. But it has to come from inside, not from pressure or fear. The front door opened and Avalon crossed the yard, each step measured. Clarice, she said softly. May I speak with you alone? Kurt nodded and went inside. Avalon settled into the chair beside me. For a long moment, we just listened to the evening sounds. I owe you an apology, she said finally. Not the kind I gave before when I was trying to protect myself. A real I'm listening. She took a deep breath. I grew up believing money was everything. My parents divorced over it. I watched my mother struggle for years. When I met Kurt, I saw stability, a future where I'd never have to worry. But somewhere along the way, I confused security with greed. I stopped seeing Kurt as a person and started seeing him as a provider. And I treated you like an obstacle. Her gaze shifted to the window where Kurt and Harlow were laughing together in the kitchen. Watching Harlow with you changed me. She lights up around you. I realized I was so focused on building her future that I ignored what she needed right now. And what does she need? I asked quietly. Avalon's voice trembled, but her answer was clear. Love without conditions, attention without distractions. For the first time, her words felt honest, and I let the silence between us speak the rest. Adults who finally put a child's well-being ahead of their own comfort, that's what I saw at dinner that night. I studied Avalon's face for any hint of performance. Instead, her eyes were steady, her voice free of the old edge. The nursing home plan, I said quietly. That was yours. Yes, she admitted, and I'm ashamed. I told myself it was practical, that it made financial sense. The truth? I saw you as competition for Kurt's attention and resources. I wanted you out of the way. But I understand now. Family isn't a zero-sum game. Your bond with Kurt and Harlow doesn't take anything from me. It enriches us all. Before I could reply, Harlow peeked around the doorway. Grandma, dinner's ready. Will you eat with us? I looked to Avalon, who gave a small, sincere nod. I'd like that, sweetheart. Dinner was a revelation. No tense small talk. No forced politeness. Just real conversation. Harlow chattering about her school projects and her dream of becoming a veterinarian. Her parents listening and asking questions with genuine interest. I watched the dynamic shift in real time, the three of them seeing each other more clearly than they had in years. Afterward, Harlow proudly presented the photo albums we'd made, the garden, our cooking experiments, the list of places we planned to visit together. Kurt and Avalon lingered over every page. When I stood to leave, Kurt walked me to the door. Mom, he said, his voice low. I've been thinking a lot about Dad, about the choices he made. I think I finally understand why he kept the patents a secret. He wanted me to earn my life, not inherit it. What do you think you've learned? I asked. He glanced back at the warm light of the living room, where Avalon helped Harlow tidy the albums. That the most valuable things can't be bought, he said. They have to be built day by day, through trust, respect, and real care. Your father would be proud to hear you say that, I told him. Do you think there's hope for us? For this family? He asked. I thought of Harold's words in his notebook. Some lessons can only be learned the hard way. Yes, Kurt, I said softly. There's always hope, as long as we're willing to do the work. Back in my own house, a calm I hadn't felt in years settled around me. The porch light glowed, welcoming me home. In the mailbox was a hand-drawn card from Harlow. Thank you for being the best grandma ever. Inside, I brewed tea and settled into Harold's chair, his notebook open to the line I'd read so many times. Money without wisdom is just another burden. You were right, I whispered. Wisdom only matters when it protects the people you love. Through the window, I saw the two houses, mine and Kurt's, side by side in the quiet night. They were connected now, not just by proximity, but by the slow, deliberate rebuilding of trust. Harold's true legacy wasn't the fortune we'd hidden. It was the insight to know when to reveal it and the courage to use it well. Family, I realize, isn't just blood or obligation. It's a choice. Choosing to love, to protect, and sometimes to set firm boundaries so the people you care for can grow. I'm no longer the helpless woman they thought they could discard. I am Clarice Henderson, guardian of my granddaughter's future, keeper of my late husband's wisdom, and finally, fully home. Now I'd love to hear from you. What would you have done in my place? Have you ever faced a moment when you had to draw a hard line to protect someone you love? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and stay tuned. On the final screen, you'll find two of our audience's favorite stories, each with its own unexpected twist.